Alright, so first off, the entire point of these practices is to target things that you had trouble with. You showed that you didn't understand at least a part of this concept. That's why I'm giving you a video on it with practice so that you can get better exactly what you're weak on. Alright, standard 8.1b is talking about comparing and ordering rational numbers. So comparing and ordering decimals, fractions, and percents, sometimes scientific notation. Here it's just asking which number is smaller. So we need to change those into a common form. We can't look at 7 over 50 and 13% and expect to be able to do that in our heads and figure out which one's bigger there. They need to look somewhat similar. Some people change them all to percents. Some people are more comfortable with working with percents. That's fine if you want to. I'm going to change everything into a decimal because it's the easiest to get to. 13%, we're going to move the decimal place 2 places, or you can think of this as dividing by 100. Either way, that's 0.13, 0.13. Fractions are very easy to change to decimals. The calculator will do everything for you. 7 divided by 50 is 0.14. So when we do this, we want to compare all these decimal places. 0 and 0 doesn't really help us. Then we compare the 1 and the 1. That doesn't really help us. But this 3 versus the 4 is what's going to help us. We're looking for the smaller number. 3 is smaller than 4, so 13% is smaller than 7 divided by 50. On the next one, same thing. Let's change those to decimals. We're going to move the decimal place back 2 places to the left, 2 places. That's 0.052. You could also, if you forget how to do scientific notation, that's really just a multiplication problem. You can multiply that out in your calculator. 5.2 times 10 to the negative second. It should give you that decimal. Now we're going from a percent to a decimal. We're going to divide that by 100, or move the decimal place 2 places. That's 0.05. This is a little bit tricky because it looks like those might be tied. That's a 0 and then 5. That's a 0 and then 5. We need to know what number happens after that 5. If there is no number there, that's really a 0. So we're comparing that 0 to that 2. We're looking for the smaller number. Since 0 is smaller than 2, 5% is the smaller of those two numbers. Alright, so on letter C, we're going to change those to decimals again. 2 divided by 125 is 0.016. 6.5% as a decimal. Move the decimal place back in 2 places, and that's 0.065. So we can compare the ones place, that's not going to help us. We can compare the tens place, that's not going to help us. It's this hundreds place that's going to help. It's a 6 versus a 1. We're looking for the smaller of the two. So we know that the 1 has to be the smaller number. Alright, so the very first thing we need to do, again, we need to change these into a common form. We need to see these numbers in the same kind of form. We're going to change this into a decimal by moving the decimal place back 1 place. That's 0.16. 16% divided by 100 is actually the exact same thing. That's also 0.16. Next one's just a division problem. 1 divided by 6 is 0.16 repeated. And then 3 divided by 19 is 0.158. So you can see that these numbers are all really close together. Actually, 2 of them are exactly the same. The first decimal place does not help us at all. Those are all 1s, so that doesn't tell us which one's the biggest or the smallest. We need to go to the next one. We have a 6, a 6, a 6, and a 5. That has to be the smallest. That's going to go first. We're going from least to greatest, so I'm going to write that number down right away. Our next number requires us to look at the next decimal place. We have a 6 coming after this. These are both zeros. These are the exact same number, and they're both going to come next because here we're comparing a 0 to a 6. So we can write those in either order. It really doesn't matter which one comes first because they're the exact same thing. I'm going to write them on top of each other. Those are the exact same number. And our last number has to be this 1 divided by 6, or the fraction 1/6. Again, we're comparing a decimal place that we don't really see here. It's a 6 compared to a 0. That's why that's the biggest number.